Marcus,
Sean, what a day.
what a day. How's your trade going?
Wow. It's the same trade. I've been looking at the number of Bitcoin I have. It's steady as can be. I don't know, the US denominated value, is it doing anything to you?
No, maybe a little bit. We're getting pretty low, but it's one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. And right now, a
We are
lot of people,
down
yeah, Bitcoin prices
27% in June, right?
27% in June, right? So for those of you listening in, this is Bitcoiner's Guide, episode 17, Plan Marcus. I'm Big Sean Harris. And we just talk Bitcoin. This is the podcast, the show that we wish we would have had when we first
We're
started.
still here. We're still here. People are saying Bitcoin is dead, but it's far from dead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's done this before. Bitcoin's price is currently $23,000 and some change. Today it's Monday, June 13th, 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Bitcoin's price is down about 15% in the last 24 hours, which is pretty cool. Down 15% when you denominate it in fiat in dollars. So with no further ado, we're going to get into this show today. There's a ton of news. There's so many things going on. The fundamentals of Bitcoin look amazing, and we'll get into that. The price of Bitcoin, depending on what your perspective is, it looks amazing because it's a great buy. But if you just bought some Bitcoin recently or in the last 6 months, you might be pulling your hair out. Don't worry. This is something that is very common for Bitcoin, and we wanted to get into that right now. So here is a little video that was brought to our attention from our good friend MTC BTC. His meme was the sixth time with Satoshi. You know, everyone thinks that Bitcoin's dead. This video was put out. Well, it was made. I can't remember who made it, but Documenting Bitcoin put the video out there. So
I remember seeing this in 2017, and it really shook me up. I was like, wow. Yeah.
My bad. I'll edit that out. Say it again real quick.
Dude, this video, this was one of the first memes I've seen when I started coming on Twitter in like 2017, or in YouTube. Somebody showed this. It was like, wow.
Yes.
Really made you look at the price in a different way.
Hey, let's take a look in.
This one time, Bitcoin went from 6 cents all the way to 36 cents, and then it crashed down to 21 cents. And then another time, Bitcoin went from 85 cents all the way to $29, and then it crashed to $3. And then another time, Bitcoin went all the way to $213, and then it crashed all the way to $70. And then another time, Bitcoin went all the way to $1,100, and then it crashed all the way to $239. So the moral of the story is, don't buy Bitcoin, because you know it's going to crash again.
Don't
This
buy.
one time, Bitcoin went from 6 cents all the way to 36 cents.
I'll do some editing on that. My bad.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And you know, like he stopped at what, like $1,200?
Yes.
In the meantime, you could be like, and his one time Bitcoin went to $14,000, and then it crashed all the way to $3,000. And his other time, Bitcoin went from $3,000 all the way to $69,000, and then it crashed to $22,000. So what's going to be the next high, guys? You know, it's are you going to let this one go by again? This is probably like the best time ever. You know, it's these cycles are pretty amazing too, Sean. I mean, you gotta admit, you know, like in hindsight, everything looks looks 2020, but here we are again, right? Maybe it wasn't the blow off top, but we had a big run up after the halving.
Yeah.
You know, then after all the exuberance, you know, like the bear market starts to set in, sentiment starts to shift, people start to, you know, probably the smart investors first, they started to take off position, and cascades into a lower price and more people selling off, and then fear setting in. more sell-offs incur, more price drops, and then we have all these Ponzi schemes blowing up now, that weren't designed for bear markets, but for bull markets. So there's so much going on, and the whole broader stock market. Go ahead. What's that? What you got on your screen?
This is from Spenty Crusader. This is just
Legendary memer.
yeah, great meme right here. Bitcoin bear market, house on fire. Bitcoiners, we're out here playing golf. Just another day.
Yeah.
Just another day enjoying what's going on right now.
It's like I've been getting all these DMs today, like from people I've been orange pilling over the past few years. They're like in that burning house on the background, like screaming at me, like, "What's going on? We're in free fall," And I'm just there, like, "Don't worry, it's part of it. This is fun. Enjoy it. Stack sats," But yeah, it's pretty tough. It's pretty. If you haven't been through a bear market yet, this is definitely a bear market. You can now say you've been through a bear market if you're still here.
Yeah, it's true because we were talking earlier well, first of all, I don't have any dry powder, which sucks right now. And the same thing happened to me in March 2020. And I started buying in October of 2019. And so I was doing all my buys. And then all of a sudden I didn't have any more dry powder in March of 2020. And that's when Bitcoin, I was buying at like 10K, 9K, that range. It was there forever. And then it dropped to like 4K. And I was just so mad because I was like, man, I wish I could buy right now at this price. And so it's funny too, because say you started buying like 6 months ago. So you start buying it at 60K and Bitcoin's now at 23K. But when you're buying at 60K, you were saying, oh man, I wish I could be buying Bitcoin back at 20K or 23K. Well, here's the chance. This is the time machine that you wanted. Bitcoin's on sale. This is the time to get it. And this is the buying opportunity of a lifetime right now. And most people, they're too scared or they don't have the conviction. They haven't done the work. And this is if you not only hodl through this, but you can buy a little bit and hodl through, it really makes you feel like a Bitcoiner, right? Because you hear all the stories, of people holding through 2013, 2014, or through the 2018 bear market. It's like, yeah, well, these are times where when you look back and people will tell you, oh, you got lucky, you can remind them, no, I didn't get lucky. I held through these huge dips, and while everyone else was scared, I was out there buying more Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really hard to buy into these red candles for most people. It's very not it's proven itself over and over, right? When the candles get green really big, really fast after each other, everybody comes running into the space. Well, that's probably the time you should be most cautious. When the candles have been red and red like this right now, that's when you should be getting greedy. It's like old knowledge, but the psychology is completely different. So it's really hard to do. And it's hard to convince other people, because right now you should be convince your friends to buy some Bitcoin now. If at any time, get them to do it now. But nobody wants to hear it now. They're just laughing at you. They're saying, are you crazy? It was at 69K. It just lost more than 60% of its value. You want me to buy this stuff? It's probably going to go to zero. And they don't buy it at the best opportunity either. And now 60K is going to be it's going to feel like nothing anymore. So they'll just all the way up to 60K. It won't make any news. People will be like, yeah, I could just drop back down to 20K again.
Yeah.
It'll creep up to 70K, 80K, 90K. And then everybody's going to be like, wow, oh my God. I got to get some. And
yes,
then it might run up over 100K. And then the music is going to stop again. And we're going to get our following correction. Probably, unless fiat completely breaks. But yeah, we maybe we have to eat some humble pie too, Sean. Stuff doesn't break down as fast as we may keep saying they do, right? Yeah.
Maybe
the world doesn't change overnight. This is something that will play out over decades. I think a lot of people say that as well. We've been saying it as well.
Things happen slow and they happen fast in the Bitcoin world, because you kind of, when you buy Bitcoin, you're living in the future. You're living in that hyper Bitcoinized world. And so you see things in a different lens. You see things in a futuristic lens, and you see life in a hyper Bitcoinized world. And so when we're not there yet, it's like, oh, this is taking forever, especially in times like this. But really, it is happening pretty fast. Like how fast it's been monetizing, the way that in 2018, 4 years ago, Bitcoin's low, it went to the 3,000 range, and now we're sitting at $20,000 more, and people are feeling max pain right now,
Yeah.
and that's 4 years. It's only 4 years later.
It was December 2020, just over wait a minute. Yeah, not even 2 years ago, that we crossed the 24K going on the way up, and everybody was like ecstatic. Now
Yes.
we've got extreme fear, in the market, just like extreme pain and fear, and people getting liquidated. Like, what are we talking about? It's insane.
A year and a half ago, at this same price, people were throwing parties, dunking on no coiners, going crazy. We told you so. And now it's like, I think some people are like that, but most Bitcoiners in reality, we're still like, dude, we're up right now. Now it's the no coiners that are throwing the parties at this same price. So I think a lot of times we live in a world full of normies, a world full of no coiners. And it's like, you gotta live in that world, but you're not of that world. You're of the Bitcoin world.
Yeah, and maybe to just go through a couple of things, like where we are right now, right? Because a lot of people are saying this is unprecedented, and this is like the worst bear market ever, and Bitcoin is going to die, and they're like screaming in my DMs. But if we look at like a couple of key metrics, right? I mean, first of all, we're still above the all-time high of the previous cycle, which was like 19K and a bit. If we look at the 200 weekly moving average, which Bitcoin has closed below like maybe only once in 2020, we are still above it right now, so that if you would use like the 200 weekly moving average as like your floor model, some people would call it, like that's kind of like this floor that has never been under yet.
Yes.
We're still not under it right now. That floor is sitting at 22,369. So yeah, we are right on it, and historically those have been like the most best points to buy. Obviously, some people are like more scared inclined. They're going to be like, well, this time it's going to fall through, and when we fall through, it's going to go really deep. Well, we'll talk about it next week and the week after. But I have this strong feeling, and you want to get into that, Sean, because we wanted to talk about fundamentals, right? I mean, what has really changed? My theory is that 22K, it's going to hold. We're not going to close below that 22K on a weekly time frame. That's my call. So I'm going to call that 22K as the bottom. I'm going to go out on a limb. Of course, we know Bitcoin can go lower. Yes. There's a lot of macroeconomic, right? We got Fed meetings coming up on Wednesday. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ are looking horrible. Yeah. There's all kind of currencies blowing up, and inflation is running hot. So yeah, maybe we can go lower, but I don't think so, dude.
So yeah, like if you want to talk about fundamentals, right? First of all, you got to look at the hash rate. That's like the first thing that you have to look at when you look at Bitcoin fundamentals. Hash rate just hit a new all-time high today as Bitcoin hits its low for the year. Its price hits the low. So
the hash rate is, what is the hash rate?
The hash
rate,
tell you? The hash rate tells you how secure Bitcoin's network is, how unhackable it is, really. And it's really just the power that's used to secure Bitcoin's network. So how many miners are out there? Every miner that gets put on to the Bitcoin network adds more hash power to the network. So the hash rate continues to grow as more miners get added to the network. And as more miners get added, and as the hash rate grows, Bitcoin becomes even more secure, even harder to hack. And so the hash rate, that is Bitcoin's true dominance. It's the strongest computing power in strongest computing network in the world. And so that is what separates Bitcoin from anything else. Is not only is it proof of work, and so you can't just press a button, but it's proof of work, and it's grown so large and so decentralized that you can't hack the network, you can't take over the network, you can't 51% attack it. So Bitcoin's hash rate is at all-time high. It's the most secure it's ever been. That's number one. Number two, if you're talking about the Lightning Network, which is the layer 2 of Bitcoin, which facilitates fast and cheap payments, which is what every altcoin tries to do. And that's why they say they're better than Bitcoin. But the Lightning Network does it better than any altcoin. The Lightning Network just surpassed 4,000 coins and also hit a new all-time high. So you have the hash rate at an all-time high. The second layer, which is Lightning, had an all-time high for coins, for capacity. And we're looking at Bitcoin sitting at 23K. This is like the screaming deal of a lifetime. And just like Marcus was saying, like this could go lower. It could go below 20K. It could go to below 19, 18. Who knows, right? It could go to 10K. Who really cares? This is why we say don't short Bitcoin, don't trade Bitcoin, don't sell Bitcoin. Just learn about it. And as you learn about it, then you gain more conviction. You get in that Bitcoin Zen mode, and then you can just keep buying it up. You can buy it all the way up, you can buy it all the way down. And I think that's the best strategy.
You know, it's a self-correcting mechanism, right? It's like the only openly, freely traded, truly freely market traded
Yes.
out there. And on any way down, anything that's losing value, but you know, what is value? That's having a sell-off, whether it's like due to panic or wider market conditions. There's always new buyers waiting for an entry point. And the lower this price goes, the more people that are sitting on the sidelines with cash, they're gonna start to get nervous, right? Like, is the bottom in? They're also getting nervous, like, I don't want to be too late. So I'm pretty sure that people who've been looking at this, you know, from back in 2020, been hearing about it, Michael Saylor, people who've been following him, you know, maybe some of these publicly traded companies, they've been watching this Michael Saylor, they're like, hey, we just want to see how this plays out for him, you know, and if this thing starts to bottom out now and starts to show signs of strength, you know, holding up its price, maybe even accruing in price again, then these guys are going to be like, wait a minute, you know, here we see this thing doing exactly what they've been saying. We've been able to study this for 2 years now. We've got all this cash on the side. We're also sitting on this melting ice cube. We don't have anywhere else to put our money. You know, inflation is running hot. Our hurdle rate is like what, like 10%, just to break even. And then you're going to get like the reverse again, right? Then that's when people start piling up on each other again as the price starts to run away from them. And then, yeah, the cycles just seem to repeat. I mean, we're all human. We're all susceptible to fear and greed. And it's just the free market. So it's going to find this balance somewhere, right? Price falls down too far. The open interest is going to overtake people selling. The sellers are going to run out of Bitcoin to sell, and then there's going to be a shortage of Bitcoin. We run back up. You know, the price gets too hot. People are going to take profits, sell more, and we're going to keep doing that. And usually, it should balance it out over time. But we have this thing in Bitcoin called the halving that occurs every 4 years. That kind of like shows a monkey wrench in like that whole balancing process, because as the market starts to balance out and finds the price, all of a sudden the supply gets cut in half from one, you know, from one 10-minute block to the next. So it's just crazily fascinating. And if you just zoom out, it's pretty clear what's going on. But yeah, it comes, you know, going from $10 to $1 million comes with some volatility. You have to be able to sit it out.
And don't forget about that halving party, by the way, coming up in 2024. Block height 840,000, by the way.
Did you get the location arranged yet, John? Like,
No, I'm working on it. I'm working on a location. I'm trying actually, and I don't think there's any secret. I'm trying to make this happen in El Salvador. I think that would be apropos for the having party. It seems like over the last 4 years, the best place, like this having epic, the best place would be to have, to show respect back to El Salvador. So I think
yeah.
that's where I
I think
want
there's very, very little discussion about whether or not that is the most deserved place to host this. I mean, if you look at it as a 4-year event like an Olympics, and you look
Yes.
back at, like, maybe there will be even some other recognitions being handed out here and there, for, I can imagine Michael Saylor, who's doing an incredible job
Yes.
on the education front, or Corey Clipston. It would be cool to have all these people there and just celebrate Bitcoin's past 4 years and what it's done. It's just a lot of history in a 4-year period in Bitcoin.
Yeah, and we've invited Michael Saylor and Corey Clipston to the party, but we just haven't.
Yeah.
And they said that they would be there, so let's.
They actually have confirmed they will be there. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
So we gotta keep it going, keep building as we get closer to the having, and I'm excited for the having party. I'm excited for the having because it's just something that it's something that keeps Bitcoin just the total opposite of fiat, right? Like fiat, they're exponentially printing more. With Bitcoin, it's disinflationary until it's deflationary, and that's what I love about it. Speaking of Saylor, MicroStrategy's Bitcoin holdings just hit an unrealized loss of $1 billion.
Wow. Yes, people are going hard into Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy. It's crazy if you read the comments. Obviously, MicroStrategy stock had a massive pump during the dot-com bubble back in 2001. So at the end of the 2000, the stock ran up from about like $138 all the way up to $3,094 approximately. So that is like more than a 10x it did back then. Now, recently in 2020, the stock went from approximately $130 all the way up to $1,300 in early 2021. Right now, the stock is back down at 152 per share. So people are already saying he's done it twice. Nobody's going to want to buy his stock anymore from now on. That's literally comments, and people are saying, sell everything you have, you moron. He seems unswayed. What do you think?
Yeah.
Unfazed.
Yeah, I think he's unfazed and he's unswayed. I think he's both. I don't think he's going anywhere. He's staying right in the same trade, which is buy Bitcoin. Whenever he has free cash flows, he's buying more Bitcoin. And look, I get it. I'm in the same position. I'm not $1 billion in unrealized losses like he is, but my biggest buy was at 50K. By far, my biggest buy was at 50K. And so, yeah, like, does it hurt a little bit? It only hurts because it's like, oh man, if I would have just held on and I would have bought at 23K. But in all reality, I picked up a good amount of corn, and that's what's good, is like picking up Bitcoin when you get money. Because what would have happened if Bitcoin would be at $150,000 right now? It's like, okay, then I would have felt terrible because I waited on the sideline while the price ran up. So you kind of have to just get in that Bitcoin Zen mode where you're just allocating money to, you're saving. It's a savings technology, right? And I think that's where a lot of times we get mixed up, is people look at Bitcoin like it's a speculative asset. But those who are Bitcoiners, we look at it as a savings asset. It's a way to save our wealth over time for a long-term period. So if you look at it as savings, then you don't need to look at it as like this speculative tool. Oh, if I would have waited and I would have bought a little later on when the price dipped, I'd be in a better position. It's like, sure, you could do that with everything and everyone's a Monday morning quarterback. But if you're buying Bitcoin, that's what you know to be right, to continue to buy and to continue to
Yeah,
hold
and
stack.
that you're really buying a fixed percentage of the total supply. You know, you're buying
Yes.
1 Bitcoin out of 21 million Bitcoins, or you're buying 1/10 or 100th of a Bitcoin out of those 21 million Bitcoins. You know, it's always going to be that. You're always going to, nobody can debase you from that. If you're holding money, you hold $1 out of whatever the number is, but in like 2 years' time from now, it's going to be a lot more dollars that are in existence. So that you just get debased. You know, if you own stocks, the company can issue more stocks. You never really know what kind of percentage of this company am I holding, right? Real estate, they can make more real estate. They can build huge towers. They can build a highway around your area. Like that's the one thing with Bitcoin, that the one guarantee, it's always a fixed percentage of that 21 million. And it's actually increasing as Bitcoins get lost. Yeah, put that next to a fiat monetary system that is just really struggling right now in every country around the globe, you know, where they're trying to control rates and they're going to try to control inflation and the job market. And all they seem to be able to resort to is just print more money and kick the can down the road. So you have got this massive expanding monetary units in fiat, and you put this fixed system Bitcoin with 21 million units like right next to it, and it's digital, and it can transact peer to peer without KYC between people. And people are starting to get it. They're using it. Even though the price is dropping right now, more people today are using Bitcoin than a year ago, than 2 years ago. Every year there's more and more Bitcoiners coming. And yeah.
Yes.
What more can I say? Buy some frigging Bitcoin.
Buy some.
While it's cheap. This is, yeah.
So going back to, okay, well, why are we buying, right? Not only, so maybe you can even say, well, why are Bitcoin's fundamentals so good? Like, why is hash rate at an all-time high? Why is lightning capacity at an all-time high? Why do these things keep growing? One of the reasons is the US inflation, the CPI just came out. Consumer price index just rose to 8.6%, a 40-year high in the United States, right?
Can I ask something about that, Sean? When it says like that 8%, right? Is that like so that's the CPI over the last month, which was May, correct?
No, over the last year.
So it's the last, but what are they comparing? Are you comparing May of this year against May last year? Or are we taking the average of the last 12 months and comparing that to what?
It's the last 12 months. So every month they'll measure CPI over the last 12 months, over the last year. So that's why it's, you know, I don't know how to explain it other than that, right? It's just, that's how they measure it. So if you have, they always say like May, but May annually, right?
Okay, let's say the CPI only consists of like, let's say a can of Coca-Cola, right?
Yes.
So let's say one can of Coca-Cola was $1 in May of last year, right? And then 1 month later last year, so June 2021, that same can of Coke was like $1.01, right? So that's 1% inflation.
Yes.
In that 1 month period, right?
Was that wait, did you say from last May to this May? You were saying?
No, that was just last May to last June. So
okay.
1 month further. 1 month further, 1% price change upward.
Yes.
And let's say it does 1% every month, then a year later it'll be $1.12, right? That kind of Coke.
Okay. Or yeah. Yes. I guess
so then if that's how we calculate it, then the average would be, you know, a lot lower. Anyway, I'm getting too much into the nitty gritty. I'll Google it and I'll come back next year, next weekend,
Next year.
give you guys an update.
No, yeah. So if it gains 12 cents, if it was $1 and it gained 12 cents over a year's time, then that would be 12% inflation, right? But
Yeah. So
and
I can
that's-
basically compare May this year to May last year, and
yes,
that's it. That'll just be 2 monthly points. But that might be a lot more volatile, as one single month could be volatile for whatever reason. So don't they like average it out? That's what I was wondering. But don't worry, I'll
well, that's why every month they come out with what it's been over the last year, right? Because every month, if there is a big jump, then you'll see it in that from this month to next month, right? Like because right now we're sitting at 8.6%, and then if next month it comes out and we're at 11% inflation, then we'll go, wow, in this 1 month of June, there's been a bunch of inflation, because we were at 8.6% for the last 12 months, and all of a sudden we shot up to 11% for the last 12 months after just one month, So I think that's so it just is the trailing 12 months, and every month there's a new report that comes out. So that's how it's looked at. But either way, we're sitting at a 40-year high. Obviously, CPI, it's a lie. We call it inflation. It's not true inflation. It's the official numbers. The official numbers are much lower. They're manipulated lower. We all know that. But what can't be as manipulated are U.S. gas prices, which also hit a new high. So we're talking about everything right now. Is CPI 40-year high. Gas prices in the U.S. hit a new high, $5 a gallon. You have all these things. Bitcoin's hash rate all-time high, but its price is sitting at a low. What else? One other thing too, before we can get into this, is Bitcoin miners. This is all in the last week. This is what's crazy about how Bitcoin's price is so low. And we'll talk about, maybe it's getting manipulated down. Maybe there's some wells that are trying to cause liquidations, but Bitcoin miners are helping Texas tackle the heat wave. This was literally last week. And basically what happened is that, according to a report from Fox Business on Thursday, Bitcoin miners are aiding in stabilizing the Texas power grid. And that's,
it's funny how we talked about this earlier, that they're doing that in the winter, right? When they need more power. And now in the summer, it's been proven useful again. That's crazy. It's gonna...
It is.
And this is all just happening in the last few years, that people are starting to understand it and actually bring it into real life practice, right? So this is just like happening in a niche somewhere in Texas, but energy companies around the world are going to be looking at this. These are huge deals, we're talking about like grid stability and energy at a nation state. That's a big deal.
Yeah. In the words of Brandon Quittem, Bitcoin mining is everything you don't know about Bitcoin combined with everything that you don't know about energy. And so it's a very deep topic, maybe too deep for this, but we definitely would say to go ahead and read some articles about Bitcoin mining, take that deep dive down energy. Energy historically, as humanity, as we've been able to upgrade in humanity, we've always upgraded and used more energy. That's just something that's always happened. And so energy as of late has gotten this stigma that if you use too much energy, then you're harming the planet, you're harming humanity's chance on this planet. But we failed.
Which is false.
Yeah, which isn't necessarily true.
Not all energy is created the same. You've got fossil fuels, you've got stranded energy, you've got wind energy, you've got solar, you've got heat from volcanoes or from thermal sites like in Iceland under the ground, you know, could be anything, not even emitting any kind of CO2 or carbon. You know, we've got nuclear, which is actually very clean. You know, people obviously it has other downsides, but you know, it's so not all energy is the same. So energy doesn't equate to CO2 or doesn't equate to global warming per se, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got like grid stability, which is really important for a nation, right? You don't want people to be sitting out in the cold without power or not being able to heat their house. The same, like you don't want people to get like heat strokes when there's like a massive heat wave coming over your state or your country. You want people to be able to have power to cool their homes and their hospitals and all that stuff. So when the power grid demands a lot of energy to deal with these kind of extreme situation, that's when these power grids run into trouble because they're designed to try and deliver this normal amount of energy, but in these like peak conditions of extreme cold or extreme heat, the energy grid is, you know, has a lot more demand put on it. And then sometimes, you know, like these energy companies have to make hard decisions about like throttling down or putting people on like quotas or not, you know, asking them to use less energy or maybe even shut down some areas, leaving people without power, which you really don't want. And why do they do that? Because if you build an energy grid that can always deliver enough power, right? You're gonna like over invest in your energy grid. Like then you've got
Yes.
like all this power being able to be produced, but you're only using like 50% of it most of the time of the year. You know,
And the
that's not
rest is stranded.
that's very hard. Yeah, it's very
Yes.
hard to get funding for that because this is like expensive, capital intensive project.
And you and
Now, however, if you
yeah,
do it now, you always have a buyer who's willing to buy that energy from you at like minimal cost, which is the Bitcoin miners. And they'll
exactly.
even agree with you that they'll power down during those extreme weeks so that you have this stable grid, high performance grid for like your entire country. What is there not to love about this, right? I mean, most people still don't get it even after I try to explain it as simple as this, but it's huge. It's huge. It's so bullish.
Yeah, well, because
Yeah.
most people don't study. Okay, you know, if you're talking about like supplying energy to a city, yeah, you have to, they have to be ready for every extreme condition, whether it's extreme heat or extreme cold, and so you have to be able to produce enough energy for those most extreme times in the middle of winter, in the middle of summer, in August, and if you aren't ready for that, well, then when you need that, then people just won't get power. And exactly what you're saying, like that's what's amazing about Bitcoin miners is that Bitcoin miners can use that energy when it's not being used for those peak times, which is rarely ever being used for those peak times. And so
and and the units are like perfectly scalable, fully transportable. You can literally just like pull out the plug and put them somewhere else, you know, like they're tiny and you can plug in as many in series as you want, you know, depending on like the power output or requirements you have. It's wow. Yeah, honestly I don't think Satoshi could have ever foreseen like this impact, you know, how this is gonna, these are like second order effects of like huge magnitude.
yeah, I don't think Satoshi could have seen this either, could have foreseen this. And what's crazy too is how, you know, you have the ESG people saying that Bitcoin needs to change the code or all this other stuff when it's like 1/10 of 1% of total power used in the world. When back in 2017, the left came out with an article saying that by 2020, Bitcoin would use up all of the energy of the whole world. And it's not even close to that, not even anywhere close to that. But what's interesting is just what we were saying is throughout history, as humans have been able to advance in technology, we've also expended energy and expended more energy. And so to tell us to stop expending energy is almost like telling us to go back in time and to stop using technology. I think just the opposite. We should be looking at ways to find cheaper energy, to find more renewable energy that will actually work, maybe even
to
nuclear.
to produce a lot of new energy that's clean and durable and friendly, etc.
Yeah, like nuclear energy, I think I think if you don't talk about nuclear energy, you're not serious about ESG, in my opinion. And then finally, who's to tell who what they can spend energy on or not spend energy on, right? Like, who's to say that putting Christmas lights up isn't harmful for
It is so hypocritical. It's like all these people who are screaming this loudest, like they probably all have like 2 cars per family home. They all go on like vacations, fly all across the world. They order stuff off of Amazon and then send it back when it's one size too small. They'll have a delivery truck pull up for like one package and then send it back. And then they want to tell you, oh yeah, Bitcoin, which is from any industry you compare it with, uses the highest percentage of renewable energies. They want to say that the Bitcoin industry is boiling the oceans. Yeah, right. To me, it's a complete non-discussion. But unfortunately, the FUDsters have twisted the narrative so much. With this guy, the DG economist, this Dutch guy working for the Dutch central bank, constantly spreading this complete false narrative, and like it's not been peer reviewed, and all these news sources from around the globe, all these mainstream media, they all pile on. They don't know how fast to take his next article that comes out to spread the FUD from the central banks. You'd almost think they were told to do so.
Yeah,
which
and
obviously isn't the case, but it's
like, what about people who watch the Kardashians? Are we not gonna, like, that's not necessary? Or what about people who watch porn? That's not, like, you stream porn, you stream the Kardashians, you stream YouTube, you like this video, right? Who's to say that this is healthy or not healthy? Like, who is the all-seeing, all-knowing eye out there that can tell us what we can and cannot stream, what we can and cannot expend energy on? Can we use a refrigerator?
there is none, right?
Yeah. And so it's like,
There is
and
none.
then these things that can push humanity forward, like Bitcoin can, then you have these economists who don't understand what Bitcoin is. And so then they say, oh, it's a waste of energy, because they don't understand the full output of it. Think about the internet, right? Like, people were saying these things about the internet too. Oh, it's expending too much energy. Would people still say that about the internet nowadays? Like, look at what the internet has been able to accomplish and the good for the world that it can do. Yeah, it's a tool, and the tool can be used in multiple ways, but who's to say what's good and what's bad? I think that's the final point of all that.
Yeah. So if like the big, or what we didn't cover yet is these different Ponzi's and like the Celsius network. We've already had Luna. I'm sure we covered that in the previous shows. Luna was, I guess, the first algorithmic stablecoin that collapsed. Some recent news has come out. You were saying about Do Kwon. You had some numbers on it. So Do Kwon is the founder of the Terra Luna stablecoin.
Yep. Yeah.
And look at this number, guys, 2.7 billion US dollars. A lot of people get lost in big numbers, right? Like, most people seem to have some idea that, like, if you have $1 million or like maybe 5 or 10 million bucks, you're pretty rich, right? But the difference between $5 and $10 million and $1 billion is roughly $1 billion. I mean, it's just like, if you have like $1,000 or $1 million, or you have $3,000 or $1 million, right? You could just be like, forget the $3,000, just give me the $1 million. It's a rounding error. This guy has taken out, allegedly, like, obviously he's like innocent until proven guilty, but there's a lot of smoke coming from this house, right? And people are saying he took 2.7 billion US dollars from this project. And Mike Novogratz was in this with him. He got this massive tattoo. It's making a lot more sense to me right now why you would get a tattoo, right? Because 2.7 billion, that's some life-changing money for you right there. Yeah. And it collapsed just weeks after. I mean, if this isn't like, this guy's gonna be in a lot of trouble, I hope. I mean, this is, at best, highly unethical. at worst, just outright criminal and deserves a lot of jail time, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is the 2.7 billion. Yeah, and he says it's false. It'll be able to be found out if he did it or not. There's a lot of transparency, so hopefully they get to the bottom of this. Either way, dude was cashing out a lot of money and giving it to those people, right? Like Raoul Pal, Mike Novogratz, all these dudes who we thought we could trust at one point about Bitcoin. And then we realized that they were just these crypto salespeople who were trying to use us as exit liquidity.
Yeah, you got to imagine, right? These guys are really smart guys. And some of these guys they work with are really, really smart guys. And they're looking at this market. They're like, if Bitcoin goes on our bull run, there's going to be something like 300 million people coming into crypto looking for an investment opportunity. And they're all going to be like, Bitcoin is the old boomer coin. It's never going to do another 100x from here. You've got people wanting to invest $20, $100, $1,000 into anything that you throw at them, right? This is like the lip licking candy store that you wish you could have gotten. And there's probably people preparing again for the next bull run, right? Like, oh my God, it's going to do it again. And Sean, my prediction is we're going to see everything that's happening right now. We're going to see it play out again in over the next 2 to 4 years, right?
Yeah.
And these guys, they know they can make $1 billion. So, right, what's like a 40 million investment if you can make $1 billion? That's nothing. So these guys come in with the big bucks for the best marketing, the most thought out, like technical blah blah of some new blockchain that's algorithmically stable coin, and we're gonna re-authenticate this, and then we're gonna do like a super utility token with this, and it's going to do NFTs, and we're going to put a marketing team, and we're going to get like these 200 Twitter trolls to just, attack and spread the narrative. And we're going to do a lot of YouTube, and we're going to do podcast visits with influencers. And then we've got people like Mike Novogratz shilling this, and people like Anthony Pompliano, and people like, I don't need to name a bunch of names, but all these influencers know exactly who they are and what they were accepting, and they knew this was at best like unethical or had a funny smell to it, right?
Yeah.
But they just get paid, they do it anyway. When we call them out, they say, oh, you Bitcoin maximalists, like there's more to Bitcoin, and you got to be open-minded, and not everything is a scam, and it's perfectly normal to get 40% APY per year. That's how banks used to do it, and it's basically risk-free. Tell your grandmother to put like her $10,000 in there too, and now
they don't care. They don't care. Yeah.
And Bitcoin doesn't have a marketing team with millions or billions of dollars. It's just plebs and people like Michael Saylor and everything in between that are just saying to everybody, look, this is the real deal. This thing is completely decentralized. Nobody controls it. It's a fixed protocol. It might be boring. That's how it was designed to be. And all you need to do is just get your fair share. It's a free and openly traded market, so it moves. Yeah, people can dump on you. People can, but the game theory is just correct. It's not a Ponzi where like people are being paid out by new entrants. No, you decide when you go in, you decide when you go out. It's perfectly open. It's, there's no payments that you didn't expect, because what a typical Ponzi does is, they'll say, we promise you 40%. So put in $100, we'll give you $40 every year. Where does that $40 come from? Well, they say that's because we lend out your $100, and we have this artificial intelligence or this bot that does like super trading, right? It knows all the winning moves
on it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to use your money to make some extra money. Well, trust me, if they figured out a bot or an artificial intelligence that can do that kind of trading, they don't need your money. No, the only reason they need your money is because it's very hard to get like their own money, and they need to steal yours, and you're going to lose it because it's even in like their terms and conditions. Well, the market turns down, and we don't have it anymore. We can seize your Bitcoin. So
that's why
do
these
not.
companies... Sorry,
go ahead, Sean. Take it away. I was just gonna say, just do not get like seduced. I don't know what the right English word is, right? To get to be seduced by these guys saying 6%, 10%, 20% per year. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, this is too. And then you've got like these influencers that like have millions of viewers or subscribers, and they'll tell you, no, 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 this is basically risk free. You know, like it's perfectly. This is the new. And
Risk
yeah,
free.
they don't look at fundamentals, and you take
Yeah.
way too many risks. You don't want to like risk losing your Bitcoin for 6% per year. Bitcoin on average does like what 75 to like 200% per year. So
Yeah.
why would you take on that risk for an extra 6%?
Yeah. And that's the thing, is these people that they'll create their own token and then list their own token on top of all this stuff, right? So they'll create this algorithmic thing like Celsius did, or Luna did with, they had a stable coin plus the Luna token. So it's like they're all, and that's where they try to get you is, oh, we're going to create our own token on top of all this stuff, our own coin. And so it's all just a bunch of BS. And what I think could be different as we're heading into a new cycle over the next 2 years or so is that in 2017, you didn't have as like the ICOs in 2017 showed the Bitcoiners back then, like who got burned or who saw people get burned, like, wow, I'm going to be Bitcoin only because Bitcoin is the only thing that has a true solution to central banking inflation. And the other things are all these scams by the founders. And I think now in this epic, right, people had seen it once. It's like, fool me once, shame on you. Now you're seeing it again, fool me twice, shame on me. People got scammed in this round, but you're just getting more and more Bitcoiners that are Bitcoin only as these times roll on, where, back in those days, back in 2017, I couldn't really find too many Bitcoin only stuff. And I know that, Pierre Rochard was out there and Bitstein was out there, but even like it was a lot harder to find Bitcoin only stuff. Nowadays, there's a lot of places to find Bitcoin only. You didn't have a Michael Saylor out there, on YouTube saying, there's no second best. You didn't have that back then. Now you do.
Right.
You didn't
And
have.
also because it was so new, we didn't know like all these altcoins or ICOs were going up really fast against Bitcoin.
Yes.
And this was like the first time, and it was new, so it was very uncertain, like how it would end, at least with a lot more uncertainty than this time around. Even though like we've seen it now, like the downturn in 2018 and 2019, we were warning people very hard, do not shitcoin.
Yes.
Some didn't listen, and now they're getting wrecked. But yeah, like you said, now a third time, it's gonna be increasingly harder to find new suckers to buy into this stuff. However, Sean, we're still early.
There will always be suckers.
I can
getting
still
harder.
see like at least like 1 or 2 rounds of more suckers falling for this stuff.
Yeah, it's good that
And
we have
I even
people like a Corey Clipston, right? He's got a lot of followers on Twitter. You got Saylor, who's got a lot of followers out there. You got even Nayib Bukele, a president. He's Bitcoin only. Like, you have a lot of people now that have some influence that are Bitcoin only, and you're getting more and more people that are understanding it. And then you have people like us that will go out and we tell our friends, there is no second best. There is no second coin. This isn't something you diversify into. This is something you concentrate into and you understand. And so I think like that's what people are starting to get. Like, if you get enough touch points, then you realize, okay, maybe this is the real thing. You got Lynn Alden's out there writing articles about what Bitcoin can do, and then also writing about how Ethereum is not something that she would invest in and why. And then she just layers out point by point by point what's wrong with Ethereum, which is supposedly the second best, and there is no second best. So I think all these.
But the merge, what happened to the merge and the flippening
and the splurge and the verge? Okay, one last thing before we go. I thought this was really cool. There hasn't been a ton about it yet, but Jack Dorsey and Jay-Z, they have a Bitcoin Academy to teach financial literacy to residents of Brooklyn Housing Project.
That's awesome.
I think it's really cool, right? The Twitter co-founder and Block CEO Jack Dorsey and rapper Sean, great name, spelled wrong, Jay-Z Carter are teaming up to launch the Bitcoin Academy, an educational program designed to teach participants about financial literacy and Bitcoin. So I just think that's super cool because the way that more people will end up buying Bitcoin and using Bitcoin to become financially self-reliant is by first getting educated about it. And I think
Is Jay-Z a real Bitcoiner?
no, not yet. I don't think so. He's close with Jack Dorsey, and Jack Dorsey's a real Bitcoiner. But I think Jay-Z is still on the edge. He hasn't really come out and
He
said,
seems like somebody that would be like NFT.
Yes.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me either. I haven't heard him come out and say like Bitcoin only, no NFTs, no altcoins. But I think like he's talked a lot with Jack Dorsey, and I think he's a smart dude. Jay-Z is a really smart dude. So I think he might be able to understand it. I think it's hard. It's amazing that you get people like a Jack Dorsey or like a Michael Saylor that have a lot of money and that are still Bitcoin only. It actually goes to show how much character they have because you have these other guys like the Novigrads and Raoul Pals of the world who understand some, but then they're just willing to take the knowledge that they have to dump on retail. And I think that's really cool about like a Jack Dorsey and a Saylor. And yeah, we got to slay our heroes. Maybe we'll have to end up slaying Jack Dorsey and Michael Saylor one day. But for now, they're doing the right thing. So you got to also give people props and credit for doing the right thing. You should give people credit for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? We focus way too much on, the FUDsters throwing their FUD our way and the shitcoiners trying to steal the shine of Bitcoin or switch the narrative. We spend way too much time defending while there's like so much positive and hope being created by Bitcoin. The fact that these guys, it relates so much because I think you as well, like we Bitcoiners, we all see how this Bitcoin thing is gonna has so much potential to change the world for the better at 100,000 levels, right? So you want to get your family and you want to tell your friends about it it's like this gift that you can pass on. Like, wow, check this out, get on board and we can all build this new, and people see how big it is, the potential. So it gets all these Bitcoiners to just start making podcasts, starting these projects, wanting to donate to El Salvador. And yeah, it's pretty amazing. So that to me is a very bullish and hopeful sign right there. So thanks for bringing that up, Sean.
Yeah, great. Well, I think that does it for this episode of Bitcoiner's Guide. Just as a reminder, this week we have Will Reeves. He joins the Meme Factory podcast this Thursday at 7:30 p.m. live on this same YouTube channel. He is the creator of the Fold app, Fold card. Don't miss this episode. It's going to be great. And then also remember, what you see here, what you hear here, when you leave here, don't just let it stay here. Please share, like, subscribe. Give us a comment, give us some feedback. We love hearing from everybody. We really do enjoy it. And as for Bitcoiner's Guide,
stack some sets, get them while they're cheap.
Get this cheap. This is buying opportunity of a lifetime. As for Bitcoiner's Guide, episode 17 from Plan Marcus, Big Sean Harris. We're over now.
Peace. Stay safe.